Mr. Nunes, do you have any concluding remarks?
I would just say to the American people, today's show trial has come to an end. We're headed down now to the basement of the Capitol to go until I don't know what time, and we'll be back there hiding again behind the closed doors, interviewing more witnesses that you may or may not be able to see in the public. I hate to break it to my colleagues, if there's anyone else out there watching television ratings, but they must be plummeting right now. And I would suggest that we get back to the work of the Intelligence Committee, that we pass a trade agreement with the United States, Mexico, and Canada that would actually help the American people out, because this is an embarrassment. I'll yield back.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized for a motion?
No, I have some concluding remarks. Ambassador, I want to thank you for your decades of service. I want to thank you, as Mr. Maloney said, for being the first one through the gap. What you did in coming forward and answering a lawful subpoena was to give courage to others that also witnessed wrongdoing, that they too could show the same courage that you have, that they could stand up, speak out, answer questions. They could endure whatever threats, insults may come their way. And so in your long and distinguished career, you have done another great public service in answering the call of our subpoena and testifying before us today. I think you gathered from our comments that we not only grieve for what you went through, but what damage is being done to the State Department, to career federal foreign service officers all over the country. I am profoundly grateful to you and Mr. Kent and Ambassador Taylor, who have done so much in the last 2 days or 3 days to show the American people the face of our diplomatic corps. The extraordinary public servants who work all around the world in very dangerous places as you have. And so I'm glad they've gotten to see you, because you're often vilified as bureaucrats, or diplomacy is diminished as unimportant. Anything other than military doesn't really matter, when it's your efforts that often prevent us from going to war. Sometimes you're disparaged as the deep state. But what you are is what holds this country together, what holds our foreign policy together, what makes it seamless, what makes it work. And I'm glad America gets to see that. I will just emphasize once again about the importance of your testimony. Mr. Kent and Ambassador Taylor gave us the broad outlines of this story. This is a story about an effort to coerce, condition, or bribe a foreign country into doing the dirty work of the president, investigations of his political rival, by conditioning U.S. taxpayer money, by conditioning a meeting that President Zelensky desperately wanted and needed to establish that relationship with the most powerful patron of Ukraine, the United States of America. The fact that they failed in this solicitation of bribery doesn't make it any less bribery, doesn't make it any less immoral or corrupt. It just means it was unsuccessful. And to that we owe other dedicated public servants who blew the whistle. Had they not blown the whistle, we wouldn't be here. And I think it is appalling that my colleagues continue to want to out this whistleblower so that he or she can be punished by this president. But let's underscore once again, while you are the beginning of this story, you're not the end of it, but nonetheless, the beginning is important, because the beginning of the story is an effort to get you out of the way, an effort by Rudy Giuliani and Fruman and Parnas and corrupt Ukrainians like Lutsenko to get you out of the way, because they felt you were an impediment to these political investigations the president so desperately wanted. Giuliani has made it abundantly clear He was in Ukraine on a mission for his client, for the president, to investigate the Bidens. And you were viewed as an obstacle that had to go, not just by Giuliani, but by the President of the United States. And if people had any doubt about it, they should do what the President asks, read the transcript. And what they'll see in that transcript is the President praises the corrupt. He praises the corrupt, Lutsenko. He condemns the just, you. And then he asks for an investigation of the Bidens. There is no camouflaging that corrupt intent. We are adjourned.
Mr. Speaker, in condition.
Please allow the witness to leave.
Mr. Chairman, you
Please allow the
disparaged
witness to leave.
those members on this side of the aisle. We should have a chance to respond to your disparaging remarks. Mr. Chairman, I demand or seek. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
You're watching a somewhat chaotic end to today's House impeachment inquiry hearing in which we heard testimony from former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Masha Yovanovitch. There was, at the end of the hearing, the House Intelligence Committee Chairman, Adam Schiff, made some comments, and then you heard Republicans objecting that they didn't get a chance to respond before he gavelled the proceedings close. It was an eventful hearing, and one of the participants via Twitter was President Trump, who, in the middle of Ambassador Yovanovitch's testimony at the beginning of the day, tweeted an attack on her, saying, quote, "Everywhere Marie Yovanovitch went turned bad. She started off in Somalia. How did that go? Then fast forward to Ukraine, where the new Ukrainian president spoke unfavorably about her in my second phone call with him. It is a U.S. president's absolute right to appoint ambassadors. They call it serving at the pleasure of the president. The U.S. now has a very strong and powerful foreign policy, much different than preceding administrations. It is called, quite simply, America First. With all of that, however, I have done far more for Ukraine than President Obama." And obviously, that caused quite the ruckus. The chairman of the committee asked Ambassador Yovanovitch to respond in real time to the tweet. She said that she found it intimidating, and now Chairman Schiff is suggesting that the tweet constituted in one way at least witness intimidation. Let's, as we watch the Republican members, including the jacketless Congressman Jim Jordan, not actually a member of the House Intelligence Committee normally, but put on the committee to be a bulldog of sorts. We are expecting him and the chairman of the committee, Adam Schiff, to come out and take questions from reporters. We will bring that to you live as it happens. But while we wait, let us review the day. Jen Psaki, what do you think was the headline of the day?
I think there's no question as we look back at today, everyone will remember is that moment you just described, when President Trump tweeted in the middle of the testimony, when Adam Schiff went back to Masha Yovanovitch and asked her about it, and she said, well, it's very intimidating. I can't speak to what the president is trying to do, but the effect is very intimidating. That's what we'll remember. Now, he then doubled down and basically went out and publicly said, I'm allowed to speak. He's suggesting that that every president can fire an ambassador, can hire an ambassador. What he's not acknowledging,
which is true.
What he's not acknowledging here, and what I think the Democrats are pushing on here, is that he fired her or got her fired, pushed for her to be fired in order because she was pushing back on him advancing his own personal interests. That's what this is about. That's what Adam Schiff brought it back to. But I think that tweet, the response, and the moment with her is what we'll all remember. Mike
Rogers, you were the House Intelligence Committee chairman. What do you think the Democrats accomplished today? What do you think the Republicans did?
Well, I was never chairman of whatever that committee is.
Well, because this is it's almost an impeachment committee, even though it's
it
a House
is. And
Intelligence
can I just say this on that? I'm disheartened by this in the sense that that committee is really very important. It's the only place that you can do really sensitive work outside the microphones, in a classified area where you can get the most sensitive information our intelligence services collect. None of that work is being done. This is what worries me. I'm not sure what the Democrats got accomplished today. A lot of it seemed emotional to me. That didn't it hurt your feelings that you got fired and that people were talking bad about you?
A lot of questions for you, Ivana.
Yeah, but that's not a legal matter. They may have been right. She was certainly mistreated in this. And again, did they point out that there is a bad system of this dual diplomacy that was operating in Ukraine by somebody who had business deals in Ukraine? We all, Republican, Democrat, everybody in between, should be offended by that.